Hey YouTube, what's up? This is Guap40. This is my first Airsoft video. Brief synopsis, I am 33. I used to really like Airsoft pretty much since like the age of 14. And my first gun was a UHC Silver Desert Eagle, and after that I was like hooked. Like that's my crack. Anyway, just now getting back into it, started a family, and after a while you're just sort of like, I'm that 35-year-old white guy, and then it's like, what the fuck am I going to do with myself? So I'm just sort of like, well, this is cheaper than real shooting sports, and it doesn't hurt anybody. So you know what? It's a way that I get to enjoy my sport in a healthy and productive manner without, you know, any serious repercussions. It's just like I go out to have fun. It's like my Valhalla. I get to battle all day and nobody gets hurt. It's fun. It's a good way of getting rid of pent up male aggression and just like, you know what I mean? You're not wasting time. You're building up skills that you may, need one day because, the world looks like a bigger pile of shit every day. But you know what I mean? But for now, you know what I mean? It's just a positive outlet for me to just like focus my energy towards my excess energy that I, believe it or not, still have at the, But anyway, I'm here to, I guess, dissolve some of the negative and some of the positive lore of the Novritsch SSP-1. Now, when I say that, I'm saying that because Novritsch will get on his channel and, he, sells the shit out of it. Now, you can buy this pistol, and if you do a couple things first, it doesn't necessarily mean buying more shit, but if you do a couple things first, I truly believe that this, from my experience, in the CO2 variant, is quite capable of being a good starter primary. And the reason why I say that over an AEG is because I have personally torn this down, being frustrated with it because I didn't do a couple of the things that you're supposed to do, and it made it very annoying. Now, in terms of that, I also want to address a video that was released about a month or two ago where another US-based player who had the CO2 version as well cracked his nozzle. And I'm going to get into that. But I will say that as soon as you get it, I do believe that it's perfectly worth it if you do choose this. Definitely, there are two things that you got to do. One is oil it. And let's see here if I can do this. I'm doing this in a cell phone in the front seat of a 2004 Buick LeSabre. Keeping it gangster. Anyway, back here in this nozzle assembly, this is what said user had, and he said that, it's like, mine cracked, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, well, when you get it, it's going to be bone dry. It is going to be bone dry. The only place where you are most likely going to have oil, God, this is the bitch. Only place where you're going to have oil in it is the one place you don't want it to be, and that's going to be the hop, and that's going to be my second point of interest here. So, drop everything out. Okay, so you're going to want to put a little bit of oil here. You want to stretch this open so you can see the O-rings in the, I guess, piston head. So you're going to want to oil that up, oil around here. And watch dropping oil directly into it, because that may or may not have actually put more oil into my hop, into my rubber, which made me believe that I had to spend some more money on it, which was kind of a headache, but it was worth it in the end. It was just like I overbought shit that I didn't really need to. But, so if you oil those parts right here and here, that should help keep you from blowing it apart. And the reason why I say that is because these pieces have high tolerances. They are very tight tolerances. and that will give you the pressure and consistency that you want. However, if it's not properly oiled, then it creates drag and resistance, which means before it reaches the amount of pressure that it needs to cycle, that pressure becomes higher because there is added resistance in the nozzle piston assembly itself, and that reaches a pressure point that will ultimately make this explode. And it's very avoidable. You just oil it. And I use Angel Custom Heavy Oil. I know Novritsch says use the light oil, but you're going to be doing this all the time. The heavy oil will last you longer. You can still keep putting more on, but I just like using the heavier oil. It makes it work. Do the same thing in the track. You might notice I'm not using a stock hop. That's because I thought that my hop was a piece of shit. And I can't tell you if it is or it isn't, but I will just tell you this. It goes together right. It fits in the gun. And my problem actually was probably more related to the fact that there's oil in it. And that was causing my wheel to go all over the place. I was making the bucking kind of gross, and that just made it so it was very inconsistent. Now, the action, because I oiled these pieces first, the action was flawless. Oh, by the way, sorry, I'm a little ADD. Definitely oil your valve knocker pin right up here. And you can cycle the action a little bit. Just make sure it keeps going. Novritsch will tell you how to oil like the whole thing. So you can just look on his site. But I will say from personal experience, oiling the knocker pin and your nozzle assembly will do wonders for keeping your pistol from blowing up. Now on to, and I said, definitely take your hop up out with the barrel out. Take everything apart without the rubber on it. Polish the barrel if you intend to use the stock one. I basically do want to run my pistol as a primary, and in the United States, people don't like to call out unless it actually hurts. So I decided I was going to put a tight bore in it to kind of mitigate the velocity drop that I would get by using heavier BBs. So I ended up, and I would definitely recommend this, but with the stock hop up. Because this hop up right here is a 1911 hop, which I had to file down the, I used a Sawzall because I'm an electrician. But, I had to cut down the nub to about the same length as the stock hop that comes with the pistol. So if you just use the stock hop and just clean it, you can avoid that whole headache. Unless you want to use a tight bore. Because Novritsch's hop-up unit does have a proprietary locking ring inside of it, kind of like a groove, and you have to have a groove in your barrel, and you'll see it when you take it apart to be able to put another barrel in it. You'd have to get another, and don't be afraid to do this. You can take that barrel up, take your old barrel up, go to like a machinist or something. Like here in Maryland, we've got AIM up the street here, up in like Hampstead, around the reservoir or whatever, you know what I mean? You can get products made to fit without having to worry about fucking it up. Like, go to a gunsmith. Like, this is just literally moving material away from metal. Like, it might be annoying, but if you use a stock hop, you know that when it all comes together, it'll fit. So I would actually recommend, if you do want to use a tight bore, get your tight bore, take it to a machinist, make it work. It's not a lot of effort. You're the one that wants to put the extra time and money into it. The second thing is I wanted to, I bought mine right after the release of the SSP-1, and I saw the non-dropping barrel, which I'm definitely a fan of, and I wanted to do the same thing. So this right here is not the stock outer barrel either. This is the APS non-recoiling high kappa fluted outer barrel. And on the website, it will appear to be like a shiny gloss finish. It is not. It is actually, it matches the outer barrel that came with the pistol perfectly. And I would definitely recommend this as a purchase. You don't have to change the outer barrel, inner barrel, anything. I mean, you don't have to change the inner barrel or the hop or anything to use this. I will say that when you first install it, have a little drill on hand with a, if you're in America, get like a 1/8 drill bit that's capable of doing metal, and you're just going to put, after you tighten this down, after you tighten your set screws, tighten it down, don't like go too hard on it, but it's going to scratch the paint on your hop. And when you pull it out, you're going to look for where you scratch the paint, and you're going to just put a little divot on where you see the scratch paint on your hop, so that these screws can lock it in. So it's not just a friction fit, it's actually locking it in, because that's going to be necessary, especially on the aluminum type outer barrels, as you don't want to strip the threads. So that'll help save your hop, that'll help save your outer barrel and make it, all happy. I personally used a Mad Bull tight bore in it because I liked the fact that it was black, keeps you from seeing the whole brass inner barrel thing, makes it look a little bit more real, which can be a plus or a negative depending on what you're going for or where you live. I wouldn't be doing this in the middle of Baltimore City because I would probably get shot. But at least not, be sensible if you're going to be doing this, not having an orange tip on it. Make sure, you keep it in its case, be responsible. I'm a dad now, I can say that. So yes, this definitely increased my accuracy, but I can't tell you for sure how much better it would have been over the original, because my original had the hop-up wheel going everywhere because it had too much oil in it, and the hop-up rubber. I'm actually using the stock hop rubber, and I bought a Maple Leaf, and with this particular hop, the nozzle was actually cutting the top of the, where that long bucking begins, like where the nub begins, the nozzle was actually messing that up, and that made it so that the hop was always on, and I couldn't adjust it to a point to where I wasn't over hopping. So I basically trashed that bucking just by that alone. So if you're going to be using aftermarket hop up, you're going to have to recognize that it might take a little bit of work filing down the tip of the nozzle just to make it, shut and not mess up your bucking, especially if you're using a Maple Leaf bucking. But this assembly right here, I was just all gung-ho. I was just going to be like, I can buy a bunch of parts, because like you get on Reddit and they'll be like, you could put this in it and that in it and this in it, and this is I don't know if this is a review or a rant, but take it for what it is. But when I got on Reddit, there is so much hate towards Novritsch on Reddit, and it is unbelievable. I tried to make a post on, what parts would work, because, I don't want to spend money on stuff that I don't need to, and I would definitely rather spend money on things that'll fit, things that work with it, you know what I mean? But I tried to make a post on it on Reddit, made several posts before I even bought the pistol, and everybody was like, this is trash, buy a KJW. And I was like, KJW makes this. Either they're both trash or they're both awesome. And so I was like, you gotta take Reddit with a grain of salt. They're just like, it's like troll heaven. It really is. And so that was my experience with that. But as overall, the magazines worked fine. You do have to drop in oil on the bottom of the O-ring where the CO2 goes into, and the heavier the oil, the better it'll work. And definitely use silicone oil. Don't use any other kind of oil, you'll eat the rubber. But yeah, I put a little bit of oil on the O-ring and on the top of the canister itself, and I don't get any leaks. You got to do it every time, but you won't get any leaks if you do it right. So, yeah. Right now it's shooting great. I got 2 extra mags, so I'm bringing 90 rounds to the, 93 rounds to the table when I load this up. Makes a great primary or secondary if you're doing the whole sniper thing. I was not lucky enough to get a SSG-24 or SSG-10. However, I did have a Javelin M24 with full metal internals laying around because I thought it was broken, and it turned out that it was just the tolerances weren't that great on it. So the trigger box was actually mounted too far up into the piston assembly. So the trigger sears were not resetting when I pulled the bolt back, and that made me think that it was slam firing, but it wasn't. It was actually the trigger mechanism sears were not being re-engaged. They weren't coming back out again. So, just play with things a little bit before you call it trash, because so much of things that come out of China, Taiwan, whatever. You know what I mean? You know, you know, they might need a little bit of extra work, but you know what I mean. You already spent the money on it. You can either send it back or with something that does have aftermarket parts, I mean, you can play around with it. And I understand where Novritsch is coming from with this. People want to buy a gun and want it to work. And I believe that the industry should reflect that. And I've bought a lot of guns in my youth that have been total pieces of shit. The UHC Super 9 sniper rifle was like the meme of bad snipers before, the whole 2000s, all that happened. You know what I mean? Before 9/11, before, Bush, before Obama, before, before all the shit that you can think of, China was still sucking at airsoft. But, you got to look at it from, being 30. You remember growing up and all you have were these, shitty Springers. And what we have now, I remember when the Bar 10 came out, I bought one of them and I was utterly amazed. And it was only like $100. And you have to ask yourself, especially after the introduction of Novritsch as a company, you got to ask yourself, why aren't more people doing this? Everybody wants to hate on Novritsch, but in all reality, if you put your fucking money where your mouth is, you take, get a couple friends together, go up to a machine shop, go up to a community college. So you've got some skills in AutoCAD, you know what I mean? There's so much talent floating around that there's no excuse not to take the industry into your own hands and make something new, And I feel like that would be a great step and opportunity for players to take in the airsoft industry, is to be able to make what you want happen. Just, follow in Novritsch's footsteps. Don't be a hater. If you don't like his shit, you don't have to buy it. It's your money. But, if nobody else is going to do it, there's an open market you could take advantage of. Just saying. All in all, I've never had this thing fail, with the exception of the oily hop. If you clean your hop as soon as you get it, you clean your hop, you clean your hop, you clean your barrel, you oil the thing, I don't see you having a problem with it. I would recommend getting the non-recoiling outer barrel for accuracy, and also because it decreases the amount of initial pressure required for the action to break. And that will also end up helping your nozzle, as the peak point at which the action breaks will be lower, so you can run CO2 with a higher degree of reliability over the long run by switching out to one of these barrels. And I think that's why one of the reasons why he went with that on his Glock is because when you're shooting fully automatic, you don't want to have that high pressure buildup each time, and especially when after a few shots on CO2, especially CO2, you're going to be getting liquid up in there. And as the liquid rapidly and violently tries to expand into a gaseous form, you can easily create that overpressure in the nozzle assembly that'll cause it to just like blow apart. And I think that's one of the reasons why he ended up using the non-dropping outer barrel. But this translates to all airsoft guns that are gas blowback. You know, the only reason why firearm manufacturers have that dropping barrel is because that is part of the action. It's a locked breech action. It allows the action to remain locked so that the initial pressure of the round firing does not cause the gun to jump out of battery, and allows you to have consistent pressure throughout the firing process, with the after effect, translating into the energy cycling the gun. But with this is a BB gun. We don't need to do that. We need to make this work as well as a real gun works. So you have to look at this as a BB gun and think, how can I make this BB gun be a better BB gun? Not how can I make this be, how do I make this feel like John Wick? You know what I mean? You have too much recoil going on. These are usually cast aluminum. You don't want to have all that shock going into stuff. Like, everybody talks about the recoil of the Elite Force 1911. Be like, yeah! Be like, well, that's great, but you put that much recoil into a KWC and it's going to fly apart. Yeah. But my thoughts. Share your thoughts. Try not to troll. This was not organized at all. These are the ramblings of a 33-year-old who has nothing better to do than shoot plastic BBs at trash cans, getting ready to go back into a game that I haven't stepped into since I was 27. So that's where I'm at. But this is my hobby. And if you're watching this, chances are it's yours too. So we're in the same boat. But I wish you luck. Whether you get the 18 or the SSP-1 or you go with the KJW, the same rules apply. Clean your hop, clean your barrel, oil your nozzle. Let's go out 40 signing out. Have fun.